Thank you for joining us this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Jurnee Taylor. Here are the top stories we're following for you now at noon. It's election day for some voters in special elections across the state. In less than 2 minutes, what many voters are weighing in on for the second time this year. Plus, the answer to Arkansas's veterinarian shortage looks more bleak this afternoon. How pet owners and dog daycares are forced to make adjustments. And a march for Israel draws thousands to Washington, D.C. A closer look at the message demonstrators want to send to the world. But first, meteorologist Simone Thomas joins us. Simone, so many of us are still waiting for those fall temperatures to get here. How much longer do we have?
Well, I mean, we are seeing an increase in cloud cover today, so that's helping a lot of places stay a lot cooler today, especially farther south. Now, some of these temperatures aren't populating on the map behind me, but you can see further south locations like El Dorado and Camden in the lower 60s, feeling a lot fall-like, but farther west, closer to that area of high pressure, to Queen, very close to that 70-degree mark. Luckily, today we're expecting to stay under 70 degrees as we keep up with that cloud cover farther along in the evening. Looking to see skies start to clear as that storm system moves further east a little bit out of our area of influence. Now we'll talk more about some changes coming up to the forecast later on this week in your full forecast.
All right, Simone, thank you. Well, it's election day in Pine Bluff, and a familiar initiative is on the ballot. For the second time since May, Pine Bluff voters will decide if the Go Forward Pine Bluff sales tax is passed. Now, there are two separate sales tax initiatives on the ballot. The first is focused on public safety, the other on education and economic development. There are clear supporters and opponents of the tax. Some say this is a necessary and wanted move, while others say it's not a wise investment.
Nobody would invest their money and not knowing what it's going to be invested in. Tell Go Forward one more time that no means no.
And it's just not a tax that people in Pine Bluff pay. If you are a visitor to Pine Bluff, you're paying for that tax as well. And all of that goes into the coffers of our city government.
It was very close in May, and I think that sends a message to people who are supporting or not supporting it that there is some controversy.
Well, polls are open through 7:30 tonight. And just hours ago, the Downtown Little Rock Partnership launched the new Downtown Ambassador Program. Mayor Frank Scott Jr. and the Little Rock Advertising and Promotion Commission signed off on the project in hopes of making the area more welcoming. The ambassadors will work to keep the area clean and provide information for visitors. They'll also be doing safety patrols to help out police. City leaders officially announced the program this morning at Capitol Plaza. And new at noon, Arkansas State University System President Chuck Welch is stepping down to become the president and CEO of the American Association of State Colleges. Welch was named the second Arkansas State president in November of 2010. The move will go into effect on January 15th. Members of the university's board say they'll meet tomorrow afternoon to talk about finding a successor. Now, part of the holiday planning for many pet owners is finding sitters or boarding options. But as Sarah Hobakowitz found, the vet shortage across the country is actually having an impact on those pet daycares as well.
Right now, thousands of pet owners, including myself, are working to find sitters or boarding options for the holidays. But before dropping your pet off, you want to make sure there's a plan in case of an emergency. Daycare centers I spoke to say they have a plan, but it's not always as simple as walking into an open vet office.
Our particular doggies are here, Maisie, Chewy, and Gabby.
Late on a Sunday night in September, Adam Carson's dog Chewy chewed down a sock and wasn't doing well.
We've got a wonderful local vet, but they're not there in the middle of the night. There was a bit of a, what are we going to do?
Adam just started driving. The closest option that night was 40 minutes away.
They got Chewy stable, and we followed up with the local vet, but if it had been something worse.
It's a stressful situation lots of Arkansans have found themselves in. A study in 2020 shows the state has the fewest veterinarians in the country. Despite being some of the highest paid, the study found there was just 14 vets per 100,000 people. It's why dog daycare centers like Camp Bow Wow in Benton work extra hard to have 8 reliable vets to call.
Our first call us to the pet parent, and then if we decide that a vet needs to be brought in to the picture, we start with their vet.
And owner Leah Lyle says sometimes it might actually be easier for a boarding center to get after-hours vet care than someone on their own.
We're lucky to have a 24/7 call service to vets because of our local relationships. So if one's closed, another one will pick up that dog that's local to us.
As Camp Bow Wow starts to book more holiday care for dozens of pups like Chewy.
Right now, we probably would see around 30 dogs per night boarding, but we would see that rise for between now and Thanksgiving.
And pet lovers hope for relief, and soon.
Having that door you could walk in would mean the world to us.
Your fur babies are your babies. They're members of our family just like everyone else.
Camp Bow Wow says they still have holiday availability, and they hope plans for the Lions Vet School can continue in order to bring more veterinarians to Arkansas.
Well, another potential blow to the efforts to find more vets. Healthcare International's plan to sell its Little Rock campus to a company affiliated with Lyon College has fallen through. One Health had planned to buy the building and property at One World Avenue for Lyon's new Institute for Health Sciences, which will oversee Lyon's dental and veterinarian schools. One Health officials say they're still committed to helping Lyon College build the two schools. The standoff at Gaza's largest hospital continues. Israel says it is a legitimate military target because Hamas is using it as a command center, while Palestinians say innocent civilians are dying at a place that should be protected in war. Israeli troops pushed deeper into Gaza, looking for militias and about 240 hostages captured on October 7th. Hamas now says it's ready to release up to 70 women and children in exchange for a 5-day ceasefire. Now, tens of thousands are expected to take part in a major demonstration this afternoon in Washington, D.C. The March for Israel Against Anti-Semitism comes as threats against Jewish people increase nationwide. Natalie Brand is there.
There were songs and prayers hours before the start of the March for Israel as a group gathered this morning in front of the White House. They're making their way to the National Mall to take part in the major demonstration that has shut down major streets and thoroughfares throughout the nation's capital.
Because we host these types of events pretty frequently, and because we have great partnerships with the Capitol behind you and the Parks property behind us, we were able to pull this event together pretty quickly.
Security is at the highest possible level designated by the Department of Homeland Security for the event following rising anti-Semitism. Attendees are expected from all over the Northeast and beyond.
It's been a really hard time to be Jewish in the U.S. this last month.
Organizers say they're calling for the release of the more than 200 hostages still being held in Gaza. Demonstrators also say they want to show the world that Jewish communities should be able to live free of hate. Israel's president, members of Congress, and family members of the hostages are expected to attend.
And we need to support our troops. We need to support the people who have been kidnapped, bring everybody home.
The event follows a march in Paris over the weekend that attracted 100,000 participants. There have also been pro-Palestinian rallies held across the U.S. calling for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
And although the event is called a march, it's actually a rally that's taking place in the National Mall to minimize security concerns. Well, southern Iceland is being rattled by hundreds of earthquakes, prompting fears of a major volcanic eruption. Nearly 4,000 people were evacuated over the weekend after the ground shook, roads cracked, and buildings were damaged. Officials said there is a significant likelihood of an eruption in the coming days. And the head of the Transportation Security Administration says this holiday season is expected to be the busiest ever. Starting Friday, the TSA expects to screen 30 million passengers. Sunday, November 26th, will likely be the busiest day with nearly 3 million passengers expected to go through airport security checkpoints. Meanwhile, AAA is projecting that more than 55 million people will travel 50 miles or more over Thanksgiving weekend. And since the United Auto Workers' new contract agreements with the big three U.S. automakers, 3 foreign car brands, Honda, Toyota, and Hyundai, have voluntarily raise factory worker pay. Labor experts believe this move is to head off the UAW's strategy to organize U.S.-based plants from foreign automakers and Tesla. This comes as Stellantis has offered a buyout to more than 6,000 non-union salaried workers. And the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court have announced they are adopting a code of ethics. It's the first formal policy for the High Court since it was founded in 1789. And as Jan Crawford reports, it comes amid scrutiny of some of the justices' actions.
After years of talking about a formal code of conduct,
and I think it would be a good thing for the court to do that.
Particularly so that we can communicate to the public exactly what it is that we're doing in a clearer way.
And increased pressure from Democrats.
The highest court has the lowest standards.
They have no code of ethics. And it's the Supreme Court of the United States.
The Supreme Court finally adopted a set of ethical standards for the 9 justices. In the newly adopted guidelines, the justices point out that the principles are not new and largely track with rules that bind lower federal courts, but add that the absence of a code has led to the misunderstanding that the justices regard themselves as unrestricted by any ethics rules. At the center of that misunderstanding is Justice Clarence Thomas, who has faced backlash for accepting undisclosed gifts and travel from wealthy friends. Other justices have also come under scrutiny for travel or book ventures. The new code emphasizes integrity and impartiality. It says justices should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence. It includes specific guidelines such as when a justice should recuse from cases to avoid conflicts.
All of these are important steps, but they fall short of what we could and should expect when a Supreme Court issues a code of conduct.
Jan Crawford, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
Well, some Democrats say the code falls short because there's no way to hold the justices accountable. Enforcement is up to the justices themselves. Car accidents happen every day all across the globe, but could the type of vehicle you drive impact how first responders can try to help you after a wreck? Well, we verify when we come back. Simone?
And we're tracking that next cold front for Central Arkansas in your full forecast coming up right after this break.